let's join together in prayer. As we gather this day, we join all those who have gone before us, who have listened to the teachings of Jesus handed down from generation to generation that help us know how to navigate our days and our times. Sometimes things can seem so complicated, and we are grateful for our faith and the way of Jesus that helps us to live from love and to grow in peace. Amen. This past week, we had the honor of seeing the St. Petersburg Opera perform Donizetti's Lucia di Lammermoor. It was an honor because the singers were astounding, especially Chelsea Linnea, who played Lucia. Her vocal performance was drop-dead stunning, and that might be a pun. She ends up dead at the end. The musicians were phenomenal. It was a powerful performance, a delight to behold, despite the subject matter. Murder, mayhem, madness, misogyny, all at its peak, even for an opera. This opera should come with warnings about disturbing themes. Here's a very basic summary of the plot. There's a family. Their power and fortune are in decline. The father has been killed. To advance their fortunes, Enrico, the son, now in charge, has arranged for his sister, Lucia, to marry Arturo. Arturo is going to fix all of this. However, Lucia has already fallen in love with Edgardo, who is her brother Enrico's rival and enemy. So you can see, it's a recipe for trouble, opera style. Fast forward, at the end of the opera, Arturo, the new husband, is dead. Lucia, the sister, is dead. And Edgardo, the rival, is dead. Enrico, the brother, is still alive. But in one way or another, he is really the one who is responsible for all of these deaths. At the curtain call, the audience booed Enrico. Of course we don't like Enrico. His scheming and manipulating has led to all these deaths. But take a step back. He's in a system where he is responsible for his family's name, for the flourishing of his clan against other clans, for redeeming the honor of his dead father, for protecting his family's reputation and standing and prosperity. The patriarchal system puts all of this pressure on Enrico. He alone is responsible for the fortunes of his family and his household. Arranging a marriage, a duel, intercepted mail, forged documents, these are all but tools in his belt to wield his power to protect the well-being of his family and his fortune. Is Enrico bad? Yes, but so is the system that produced him, the social, cultural context that he is beholden to. Patriarchy and his role in it restricts him, limits him, and pressures him. So if you take another step back, you can even feel sorry for Enrico, having to live the rest of his life with the deaths of these three people weighing him down. Yes, there are the actions of the person to consider, but the person is functioning within a system. And the system of patriarchy puts a lot of stress and pressure on, well, men. And we're thinking about that given that today is Father's Day. Patriarchy is structured so that men have control, basically, over society and the family. It's a hierarchical system with men on top, so men have the responsibility for the well-being of all. And that usually starts with them, and it becomes their well-being, often at the expense of others. It's a system that's kind of set up to be corrupt, while it seems to be noble. Even today, where there's a greater equality of the sexes, maybe than ever before in modern society, there's still this underlying expectation that men are the providers, the breadwinners. It's a challenge in a marriage when a wife earns more than the husband. Yes, men assist now today with household chores and childcare, but statistics show that even when both partners work full-time, women bear more of the responsibility for parenting and the household. And of families with one parent, yes, there are dads raising their kids. But most single-parent households are headed by mothers. Patriarchy still reigns. This past week, National Geographic featured an article about 5 extremely significant cultural sites in the world that can only be visited by men. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but there are 5 at least. Mount Athos in Greece, home to many monasteries with spectacular views and collections of art, for men only. Mount Omine in Japan, home to Buddhist and Shinto temples and shrines in a serene forest setting, to be visited by men only. Okinoshima Island in Japan, the island itself is considered a deity. Its origins involve 3 sea goddesses commemorated at 3 Shinto shrines on the island, which can be visited by men only. Hermannstrasse in Hamburg, Germany, is traditionally a red light district, which was home to sex workers who were targeted by the Nazis. Well, when it comes to visitors, only male visitors are allowed. And Band-e-Amir National Park in Afghanistan, which features spectacular scenery, lakes, cliffs, natural dams, the first park of its kind in Afghanistan, can be visited by men only. 3 of these 5 sites are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and 1 is in the process of seeking that designation. Despite the fact that women are over half the world's population and cannot even visit these places, they're still considered of utmost significance to human culture. Frankly, I can't imagine being a man and knowing I can't go with my wife, my mother, my girlfriend, my daughter, my sister, to any of these 5 historic monuments to human culture. I mean, that's just crazy. And this short list of 5 sites would be, I'm sure, much longer if we added all the places which are restricted to men only. These are just 5 of the most significant, and let's not gloss over the fact that of these 5 sites, 3 are religious sites, holy sites. We must recognize that patriarchy is being fortified by religion, including Christianity, even though Jesus was a feminist. He time and again interacted with women in ways that defied the religious and cultural dictates of his day. And so did his followers for the first few decades after his death. But patriarchy soon infected the early Christian communities. This week, I read about a man married with 16 children. The couple had 11 and adopted 5 more, all siblings. The family is religious, Christian, devout. The husband declares, "God changed my thinking about how a man is to be the leader of his family." Well, this husband, concerned with his role as the head of the household, the one responsible for the well-being of the family in his charge, evidently attempted to hire someone to kill the birth parents of the 5 adopted children. This husband and father, so devoted to his family and faith, he led the family in prayer and Bible study every morning. He took the Bible very seriously. Well, what about thou shalt not kill? And love your neighbor and love your enemy. Do unto others. I don't know how that fits in all this hiring someone to kill these biological parents of your children. There's yet to be a full explanation of the situation. The money paid was a scam, so the birth parents weren't killed. But the father, the husband, has explained that he thought he had made these arrangements and paid the $16,000 in Bitcoin. This man had no criminal record, no history of violent behavior, worked 10 to 12 hours a day for Microsoft. His wife describes him as the handsome man who makes it all happen around here. And of course, this is horrific, but it also reveals the ravages of patriarchy. This father was so burdened with the care and well-being of those beneath him, his wife, children, that he resorted to seeking the death of others to protect his family in some way, though there's no indication of a direct threat. The burden of patriarchy and some notion of the proper, even faithful role of the male led this man to this heinous scheme for which he received a prison sentence of 7 years. Our society is trying to think about equality, but patriarchy still reigns, and it's a powerful system. And it's not just that women want equal rights in all spheres of life. It's not just that patriarchy is bad for women and children. What we seldom hear about is that patriarchy is tough on men too. Cultural messaging often limits the options of men. They have responsibilities and expectations heaped upon them that weigh them down and often lead to the dying of dreams and to horrible choices and actions based on the ends justifying the means. Under pressure, men succumb to the use of violence, abuse, and emotional manipulation as tools at their disposal to use at home and at work. When we were at Jeff's 50th college reunion last month, we heard from an alum, Jonathan Newmark. When he went to college, he wanted to become a composer, but he was discouraged from that path. So he ended up in the Army for 24 years, which involved becoming a doctor. That was a steady job that would provide for his family and meet their needs. After he retired, he went back to school and got a degree in music composition, and now is fulfilling his deferred dream. Well, he was a man after all. He had to provide for and support his family. He had to make a contribution to protecting society. He couldn't just follow his passion and not knowing where that might lead. Now, in retirement, he can finally do what he's always wanted to do. At the reunion, a choir sang an anthem that Newmark composed at the memorial service for the classmates who had died. Men, fathers, are significantly impacted and influenced by the demands of a patriarchal society in ways that defer, if not destroy, their dreams. Now, in the verses we heard from Matthew that convey teachings associated with Jesus, we see a different model. It doesn't have to be like that. We see the model of partnership instead of patriarchy. The sower sows the seeds, plants them in the field, and the seeds sprout. Eventually the crop appears. Maybe the farmer waters or weeds. But the power for growth and for life and for food production comes from nature, from God, the source of the seed, the land, and the rain, as well as the life force that's part of nature. In this story, we see how we can work in partnership with God as co-creators to see that all things come to fruition. The gospel teaches us to work together with each other and with God in partnership, helping each other, offering what we can, appreciating the inputs that are beyond us, grateful for the mutual dependence that keeps us alive. We share the joys and burdens of sustaining life. There's a story about two farmers, neighbors, who were looking out at a field. And the one farmer saying, "Oh, God is so good. God provides this beautiful corn. God provides everything needed so that this corn sprouts up and now we have plenty of food. And isn't God so wonderful?" And the neighbor, it's his field, he said, "Well, I removed all the rocks. I took out all the weeds. I removed the brush. I plowed the field. I planted the corn. You should have seen it when God had it." Jesus offers us a model of partnership, working together with each other and with God, that is very different from the model of patriarchy. In patriarchy, someone is over someone else. More power, more authority, more influence, which translates into more resources, and this usually comes at the expense of others. While the system seems benign, even benevolent, the head of the household taking responsibility for the well-being of others, it quickly turns into suppression and oppression. The desire for power and control and wealth creeps in and takes over. So some seem to thrive, but it's at the expense of others. It's a system rife with corruption and misuse, and it places an undue burden on men, as well as limiting the role of women. As Mary Daly, a professor at Boston College, a Catholic school, put it in her seminal book, Beyond God the Father, Toward a Philosophy of Women's Liberation, written in 1985, she says, "If God is male, then male is God." What kind of system is that? What burden to place upon the beloved males of our species in so many ways? Jesus relieves us of that burden. He presents the model of partnership, God and humanity, people working together. One of the first things that Jesus does in his ministry, as it's handed down to us, is to call other disciples. to share the ministry and the power to do good. So this Father's Day, let's think about escorting all men down from the pedestal of patriarchy and then dismantling the pedestal. Moved by the gospel of Jesus, let's invite all men into partnership, working together, mutuality, living their dreams. Men don't have to be perfect. They can make mistakes. They don't have to be responsible for fixing everything. They can be vulnerable. They do not have to take sole responsibility for providing for everyone in the household or the workplace. Men and women, cisgender and gender nonconforming, young and old, all can work together in partnership to find solutions to problems and to provide needed support, financial, emotional, spiritual, and material support, not only for the human community, but for the other than human community and for the earth itself. So this Father's Day invites us to think about liberating men from the burdens of patriarchy and replacing patriarchy with the gospel model of partnership. Amen.